And today we have a very exciting topic, which is we also care. And you would wonder who would also care, and it's the civil society. The role of the civil society in strengthening education system in Samena. Along the past few years, where we have been working with the countries in Samena region, and Samena, we mean by Samena, South Asia, Middle East, and North Africa. We have 4 countries from South Asia: Bangladesh, Maldives, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. And we have 4 countries from the MENA region, which is Tunisia, Egypt, Yemen, and Sudan. And within our work in Samana region, we have spotted wonderful contributions from the civil society, either in the form of independent projects, KIX research projects, collaboration with governments, and on many other scales. And this is why we thought of dedicating today's session to the role of civil society in strengthening education systems in Samana. All right. So now we have our wonderful moderator, Dr. Ahsan. And Dr. Somera Ahsan is a professor at the Institute of Educational Research of Dhaka University. And she is the KIX EMAP International Coordinator for Bangladesh. And I would ask that you kindly allow me to introduce Dr. Somera.
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Somera is here with us, right? Just give me a minute because I have a wonderful biography that I wanted to share with you. All right. So, Professor Ahsan is working as a professor at the Institute of Education and Research, University of Dhaka. She earned,
Can you hear me, Rasha?
yeah, I can hear you, Somera. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can
Very,
hear you.
very
Sorry,
good.
I got disconnected.
That's fine, dear. So again, I would introduce Professor Somera Ahsan. Professor Ahsan is working as a professor at the Institute of Education and Research, University of Dhaka. She earned her PhD in International Education from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, USA, and Master's in Educational Evaluation and Research from Institute of Education and Research, IER, University of Dhaka in Bangladesh. She has 15 years of experience in teaching and research in education. Sumera's areas of interest and expertise include educational assessment and evaluation, educational research, teacher professional development, educational technology, education policy and practice, global citizenship education, and gender and inclusive pedagogy. She has worked on different national and international education development projects and activities. She is the interim. Kindly, could you please mute? All right. So she has worked on different national and international education development projects and activities. She is the international coordinator for the GPE KIX EMAP Hub for Bangladesh, and she is the international coordinator for the GPE KIX EMAP Hub for Bangladesh, and she has been contributing wonderful work in Bangladesh for all the education sector. And she has organized 2 wonderful events in 2024, 2 huge mega events. One is the Bangladesh National Uptake Forum, where everyone, all stakeholders from Bangladesh, talked about their contribution to education policy development. And she also arranged for the Samana team retreat in Bangladesh as well. And it has been really wonderful working with Professor Ahsan. Now I would hand over the moderation for Professor Ahsan, and I would be here available in case you need anything. Professor Somera, the floor is yours. I would ask you to unmute. Yes. Can you unmute yourself now? Very good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please
Sorry,
go
my
ahead.
internet connection is very unstable today, so I am keeping my video off for some times. Thank you, dear Rasha, for the lovely introduction. I again welcome you all to today's Knowledge Cafe session, which is a very kind of, I would say, informal but wonderful learning session for all of us.
I lost the sound from Dr. Ahsan, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go on with the introduction of the speakers until Dr. Ahsan restores her internet back. All right. And today we have 4 contributions from the civil society. 2 from Bangladesh, 1 from Egypt, and 1 from Tunisia. I'm very grateful for their willingness to share with us their experience. The first is Mr. Syed Ahmed. Mr. Syed Ahmed is a public policy analyst and the
Can you
CEO.
hear me now?
Dr.
Yes.
Samir, you're back? Yeah. Dr. Samira, let me continue with the introduction until you set up your internet,
Yeah,
okay?
sure. That would be great.
Okay. So, Mr. Said Ahmed is a public policy analyst and the CEO of the Institute of Informatics and Informatics and Development, IID, a think tank dedicated to fostering an informed, inclusive, and democratic society. With over 2 decades of experience, Syed specialized in education, governance, and social inclusion. That's a very nice blend. He also served as the coordinator of the CSO Alliance Secretariat, all right, and a coalition of civil society organizations advocating for impactful policy reform in Bangladesh. Saeed is a steering committee group member for UNESCO Network on Education Quality Mentoring in the Asia Pacific, known as NEQ MAP, represents Bangladesh as the focal point person for the People's Action for Learning, which is PAL network, and is a member of Bangladesh KIX National Steering Committee. Through his work, Syed has led initiatives addressing critical issues such as foundational learning, education financing, and social equity. It's our pleasure to have you with us today. Then we have Miss Nasreen, Kazi Nasreen Siddiqa. Kazi Nasreen Siddiqa has spent 25 years as an educationist and development practitioner dedicated to promoting gender equality and access to quality education in Bangladesh. With a focus on overcoming barriers to girls' education, she founded the NGO Education and Culture Society, ECS. And ECS did a wonderful job in organization for our events in Bangladesh, and I would like to thank you here for this. Grounded in many core principles, where she currently serves as president and executive director, Nasreen launched a flagship project to expand rural girls' access to STEM education. Through various projects, she and ECS have since established hundreds of science, environmental, and STEM clubs in rural schools and trained nearly 5,000 teachers to create gender-sensitive classroom environments. Nasreen holds a master's degree in Japanese studies. Wow, that's new to me. And botany from the University of Dhaka, and is currently pursuing her PhD in applied science as a research fellow in Gujarat in India. Thank you very much for coming today, Ms. Nasreen, and we look forward to your wonderful presentation. Third of participants today is Ms. Omnia Zahran. Ms. Omnia Zahran is an education officer at Equitable and Safe Access to Education Services for Migrants, Refugees project at Masr al Khair Foundation. working in the development field for 7 years at education and youth capacity building programs in the NGOs. Also, a former participant at KIX Learning Cycle. She is a Learning Cycle 7 participant, and she was really amazing with the contribution to the national report. Thank you, Ms. Omnia, for showing up today. And last but not least, Mr. Lasad Yacoubi. And Mr. Lasad Yacoubi is a civil society activist and president of the National Association for the Rights to Education for All. He is a former trade unionist and served as the Secretary General of the Secondary Education Teachers Union in Tunisia. Additionally, he is an activist and coordinator within the Education Out Loud project at the Tunisian Education Coalition. Thank you very much for being here with us today, Mr. Yacoubi, and we look very much forward to your presentation. And because today we have many participants in the Knowledge Cafe, I would like to invite everyone else is to introduce themselves on the chat. So please write your name, your country, and what do you do in your country for supporting education and strengthening education sector. And then it's going to be like a written introduction over the chat. I'm reminding you again, keep your drink with you so as you'd be hydrated while enjoying educational context. And now I would stop screen sharing and I would invite Mr. Syed. Mr. Syed, would you like to screen share yourself or would you like me to screen share for you? I would ask you to.
Thank you very much, Rita. And also keeping in mind the time. So let me share the screen. Hopefully I'll be able to.
How are you doing today?
Faster. I'm very well. It's
Good.
a Thursday. So it's the last day of the weekend.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, sorry, it's the weekend starting. So it's it's a good way to start. And I would also want to say that this session was planned long before the decisions at, on the other side of the Atlantic, took place with the Trump administration, USA, that creating havoc on the, funding across the world. So I think it is essential, and not only that, it's at one point it seems like it's not that we care too. Sometimes at this point feels like we are one of the very few who care about education. So I think it's a very timely, assessment. So I'll go very quickly with the about the organizations a little, so that to connect it with what we are doing. So IID, we say that IID stands for or wants to make a IID society which is informed, inclusive, and democratic. To look around the world, you know why these three is so important. And it starts with inform, and that's where the education comes. And we have an approach for, we say that we inquire the evidence, that is the research. We make sure that we are informing the people, and then so that the people who are informed can come together and we can involve in the public policy. This is the mission we have. In education, we work on the learning ecosystem, learning assessment, learning employability, and learning for the future. These are the 4 areas we mostly work. Before I talk about the few of the examples that we do, let me share on overall what role CSO has been playing in this context, particularly from the Bangladesh context. And the source of this is largely, as I told you before, that IID is also a secretariat of CSO Alliance. So the CSO Alliance took a project where the contribution of CSO over the last 50 years. So we published a book. There is a chapter on education. So I actually, it's a very quick summary about that, what it that might help us to understand what we are doing. So one is at the very beginning in Bangladesh, actually, it was the philanthropic groups and the civil society that started education, because most of the schools were actually established by the community here. It was the community-based school, and later on, government nationalized them or started paying the salary. So this is the very beginning. The groundwork was from the civil society. Then we also have the informal education initiative where, particularly for the out of school students, after this, 1971, it was the CSOs who took the major initiative to rebuild the whole education system actually. And our literacy campaign, and one of the more important, the non-formal education has been very, widely recognized one that showed that, the increase in not only enrollment or, and the literacy also bringing the, gender equality in the education. CSOs has also been pioneering in the innovation in education. One example would be BRACS, out of school children, school for out of school children. Like, it's a very frugal school that they initiated. And then also, there have been a lot of innovations in the teaching methods improvements that also came from these educational organizations. And civil society has also been the driving force in policy and partnerships. We collaborated with the government in university primary education goals. We also, do the the grassroots research and campaigns for the to establish an education system. So as I'm setting up for this my presentation, so one of the key area that I would say that we are facing now, that one, Bangladesh is seeing there is a mismatch between learning and education, and even the last student revolution that started with something to related with the the employment quota, because there is a huge issue there, and that is continuing. As I speak to you, 7 colleges, students from 7 colleges are also protesting about the the how to show the certificate which has a better value in the job market if they become a university. Other is the evidence-driven policy is sometimes we see that it is not there. Many a times, sometimes, education become the carrier, the textbook become the carrier for political and non-political agenda, where the government wants the others to listen. And, it's like a training for the students so that they understand their political will. And those cases have never been, evidence-based. Unfortunately, as we going through another change, we see that the Facebook changes also when is being made without evidence. And of course, we have barriers to equity at the same time, like the education system is not equal. So this is the field where you work on. So when we work, so the initiative that we IID's education is now focused, we call education equality, so equality. So our focus is to strengthen the role of civil society, right? And so that we can make the education system more future-ready, resilient. And we work on 3 prongs. So we have a network of youth. That's our core strength. We have a network of civil society organizations, and then we also have a network of policy makers. So these are the 3 network that we have established that we use, for our capacity building, and we of course we have our global networks like this one. Now the youth network that we have, it currently have like more than 12,000 volunteers across the country. We cover more than half of the country, in the district wise, and one of the things that we do that we train them. And they are our core, catalyst for any of our education programs in the local areas, whether it is the data collection, it is the assessment in the village level, or community-led assessment, or in any intervention in the school. Just quick, and given the time, I'll just very quickly. So we start with the training the youth through residential camps about the education systems and everything. And those young people go back to their own community, and then they start a peer learning training to their community. So if we are training 100, they will go back and then they will, train, each of them will train 20 to 30 people more. So that's how we multiply our reach. And They also develop what we call the youth manifesto, like they will run surveys, and FGDs to make sure that the youth voices, they bring the youth voices. What is the major problem now at the areas? These are some of the initiatives that they have. This is one key important thing. So this is the one that we just did. One of them. So that the very far right, one who we call this intergenerational dialogue. We talk about youth a lot, but we sometimes miss that it is you need to involve both the generations. So this intergenerational dialogue, this both of them were actually on education. So we bring in the young people with the education experts to share, so that they can both the experts can understand their perspective and the youth can understand their wisdom, learn from the wisdom when they take out their initiatives. And we, of course, do capacity building and learning sharing within other organizations. So one of the examples that I'll give is the way we try to reach across the board. We have this policy action hour. What it means is we always talk about public policy, but when you take a policy, can you convert that policy into an action? And this year I think, awarded 7 organizations every year. We do that. So what they do, for instance, one organizations, they focus on a very minority community thing. Their focus is to the Dalit and the religious minority community on the far left. So they train them so that they create awareness among them mothers, so that the children can come. On the far right, they actually through this they actually train the teachers in different places. At the very bottom, they call it the education tree, that they encourage the climate education in the schools through this project. So this isn't only few. So there is a different partnership that we have where they will have to find any SDG goal from the education, and that they will go back to the community and implement it themselves. That can help achieve that goal. We also do citizen-led audit, where we assess so that the school is performing well or not, whether the community's budget or the local government budget is aligned with what the parents and the citizen want. So the way we try to make sure the local system is aligned. We also do large scale assessment. This year we are also going to start, as part of the PAL network, a nationally representative survey that will provide the data for SDG 4.1.1. So, and just the last slide, I just wanted to say, when you try to, I like this slide, we say that, when you try to, education system development, we talk about, so we work in all three areas, because we realize that in the village areas, you can bring big change, like, moving a pebble, but in a small area, we try to use that learning in the Upazila, the district area, where you can actually, share the best practices of villages with other partners. That's what we do. That we say that, it's not that big. It's not as easy as moving the pebble, but it's like, we're moving a rock. And at the national level, we work, but it is like, moving the boulder upstairs. And my time is up. I know. Thank you very much. I know we have a wonderful, 3 other speakers. So I just didn't want to take more time. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a wonderful job you're doing. I mean, that's a lot of work, and having a multi-layers of intervention with the different types of scopes. I mean, I really admire whatever you're doing. And I think Professor Ahsan is back. Yeah, so
Yes.
we can invite her to take over the moderation. And
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rasha. Thank you for inviting me for moderating this session. Thank you for the wonderful and lovely introduction of mine. And I will not take much time. So we have listened from Saeed Ahmed. So it was really wonderful to know about how IID works related to policy and how they make the policy visible to different stakeholders and translate it to different, I would say, kind of language to all the different stakeholders and mass people and encourage policy actions. That is really amazing. So before we go to Kaji Nasrin Siddiqa, maybe if anyone has any question, we can take one or two questions. If you have, you can just raise your hand and we can ask you to unmute and then you can talk. Or if you want, you can also write in the chat box.
So yeah, I think we would keep the questions for Bangladesh after Nisreen Appa.
Nasrin. Yeah, Nasrin Appa. So
Yeah,
let me, I think already Nasrin is introduced, right? Okay, Nasrin, Kaji Nasrin is well introduced already, I think. So Nasrin, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Appa. Just let me share my slide. Is it visible?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, all right. So, all right, without wasting any time, let me just start. Thank you so much, Sumaira Appa, and thank others. And I'm very happy to see all vibrant speakers today. So, hello and welcome. It is a privilege for me to speak at the Knowledge Cafe about the role of civil society organizations, CSOs, in strengthening the education system in Bangladesh. So, as the founder and executive director of an NGO named ECS, Education and Cultural Society, what already Rasha mentioned, that I have dedicated the last 25.
You're showing a word.
Yes, but we can see your screen.
Yes,
it's the
that
printing
one. Yes.
button.
Perfect.
Yes, sorry. Is it okay now? All right.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. So yes, I took my note and that's why it was here.
It's back.
It's back.
Yes, this one.
Yeah, I think it is fine. So let me go to the slide. So you can see that information, knowledge, finance, and service capacities, that is a gap. So NGOs are actually working with the civil citizens and community and national and local government. So it is making the bridge actually. And I have to say that if I go to my next slide, then how we are working here. Okay. Okay, just a second. Okay. So ECS has generated several, I'm sorry. Yeah. So civil society has been described by political theorists and the playing a key role in a democratic society. So by presenting citizen interest, enhancing civility, trust, and acting a government watchdog. So, and introducing transformative, oppositional, or innovative ideas and models. So, civil society organizations like ours, what already Said said, and also ECS, they have also long been direct providers and social services, particularly in education. So, in Bangladesh, the CSOs like ECS have played a pivotal role in national building since liberation. And Said already mentioned about the BRAC and other NGOs. So, however, during the last decade of the fascist regime, no organization could function for the welfare of the people, let alone the CSOs. So we have witnessed a slow progress in implementing the national education policy and the need for a permanent education commission with appropriate authority to guide and monitor education reform. So has yet to be acknowledged. So despite these challenges already, we have never lost hope, and instead we continue to work toward the strengthening of the education system by bridging the gap between national and local government, citizen, and community. So in this way, advocacy, monitoring, evidence generation, and collaboration in this purposes, our NGOs and civil society organizations are working. So here, if I see the role of civil society organization in Bangladesh in more points, that civil society organizations can help strengthen education by advocating for policy changes, monitoring programs, and generating evidence. So CSOs can help ensure that the needs of marginalized groups can be met by advocating for policies that support the education of marginalized group, promoting life skills such as communication, critical thinking, and problem solving, and also ensuring that learning extend beyond traditional reading and writing skills. Okay, all right. So advocacy levels, the CSO have achieved various milestones in strengthening education system like technology-based education system. So in Bangladesh, ICT, and I mean information and communication technology studies have been introduced at the primary and secondary level, and poverty reduction friendly education policy also has been introduced in Bangladesh. So additionally, technical education institutions have been established in every upazila, and the number of polytechnic, textile, and leather educational industries also have been increased. And re-engineering the education system, educationalists and the civil society organization have continuously highlighted the need to reform the existing education system, identifying it as a primary cause of educational inefficiency in Bangladesh. So in response to their demands, compulsory education, primary education has been extended from 5 to grade 8, and secondary education has been extended to class 12 with a uniform curriculum and syllabus for general madrasa and vocational levels as outlined in the National Education Policy 2010. And if we want to talk about the secure education policy in response to demands for various CSOs, the term secular was removed from the policy draft to make it acceptable to all segments of society while ensuring religious and moral education. And revised higher education system based on recommendations from civil society, 3-year graduation courses have been converted into 4-year honors courses in phases. So these are the things, some examples I mentioned for the role of civil society organizations. So now, if let me talk about ECS initiative. That as an NGO, ECS has played a key role in strengthening the education system and ensuring quality education with STEM skill for all. Since its inception, ECS has organized capacity building training, workshops, seminars to form 10,000 teachers already. We reached nationwide, especially in rural communities and ethnic communities. So ECS has worked relentlessly for teachers and the student skill development, reaching over 1 million primary, secondary, and tertiary level students through workshop, Olympiad, innovation fair, science and environment, club formation, and serving learning programs. Approximately 2,000 head teachers, principals, and administrators have benefited from ECS interventions. So ECS introduced action-based education research and has conducted studies followed by action in collaboration with the Brookings Institution on family, school, and community engagement, Learning and Action Alliance for Girls Agency LAGA, and student absenteeism, and with the North American Association for Environmental Education, I mean NAI. So we did the research on climate education, and also with the World Bank, we worked through research. So ECS consistently involves local government authorities, relevant ministries, and policymakers in its endeavors, supporting them in curriculum development with STEM skill-based learning and education policy reform. Here you can see some photos. We could produce millions of photos through our work. If you are interested, you can go and search for that. And we are always here to inform you about more information. So here, So what is the evidence generation ECS did? That ECS has generated several pieces of evidence as part of its mission to strengthen the education system and to ensure quality education for all. ECS pioneered the introduction, promotion, and absenteeism of establishment of STEM-based education system in Bangladesh to enhance participation in decision making regarding education, careers, life choices. So ECS worked for the tertiary level, university level girls, female students as well, and or for the girls agency, engaging all relevant stakeholders with that. ECS, moreover, organizes policy cafes and policy dialogue with policymakers and key education stakeholders and publishes policy brief and research articles to support education policy reform. So ECS conducted a survey to identify the reasons behind how family engagement in school activities are leading to the formation of 6 global lessons. You can see it in the right, and which were published by the Brookings Institution. ECS actively includes persons with disabilities in all its project and action research activities and arrange awareness development seminars and workshops to promote an inclusive education system. Here you can see some of our research with the Brookings Institution and the World Bank. So finally, the collaboration, the way we are collaborating, already Rasha mentioned that we did the KIX EMAP Café, and now we are working with the learning cycle. So Ms. Sumera and also Said is here, and other NGOs and universities. We all work collaboratively, and the way we will collaborate more, we will be more strengthening, and it will strengthen our education system, we believe. The power of civil society organization lies in their capacity of collaboration. ECS contribute to development of the education system by working with communities, students, teachers, policymakers. So ECS engage community through family engagement, 3-0 movement of our current interim government head, advisor, Professor Mohammad Yunus. So his theory, positive youth development, entrepreneurship development, and capacity building programs as well. So here you can see more photos, formation of club. Here you can see in the STEM club, she is one of the district education officer out of 64 district education officer in Bangladesh. She is only we have 2 female, and she is one of them, and in different and at the top the policy dialogue with the policy makers. So that's all. And so, however, to effectively fulfill these roles, CSOs must be able to operate freely, be well prepared with technical knowledge, and receive adequate support. CSOs need capacity building support to participate constructively and policy discussion on education. So, offer valuable critiques and proposals and advocate for improvements in the education system. So if given this support, CSOs can work together to bring national education policies closer to achieving the goal, like SDG goals also, of fulfilling the right of education for all, ensuring that no child or adolescent is left behind. So thank you. I'm going to stop here and wish to give floor to Sumerappa again. So thank you so much. And if you have any question, I think Sumerappa will ask in right time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nasreen. It was really wonderful to see. I know you CESE is working a lot. Actually, what I wanted to focus here is that it's wonderful to see the different level of works that you do. And also it is interesting that it's not only the advocacy and partnering is only between the or within the national level. I see that there are a lot of collaborative works that you are doing, which is like internationally. So our knowledge is actually spreading around, and we can also receiving. So there is a smooth transition of knowledge over the globe. That is, you actually are helping with. That is wonderful. And also like different knowledge products that you are actually developing. So maybe if those are in the online, maybe we can have a look. So if you give the links and everything in the chat box, that would help others. So I think now what we can do is we can ask the audience if you have any question. I see one question from
Yes.
Rokeapa. Okay. Please go ahead.
أهلا مساء الخير.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello.
نعم.
Yes, go ahead.
شكرا جزيلا مساء الخير.
Thank you so much.
بكل خير.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this great Knowledge Cafe. I would like to thank Dr. Rasha, Professor Ahsan also for these valuable interventions. My question is to Dr. Said and Dr. Nasreen regarding the involvement of the CSOs. Can we work on two main levels? The first one is representation. Are the CSOs represented in the boards of education? As said by Dr. Nisreen, are they involved in the development of curricula? Because as we may know, there should be representatives of the CSOs in all the boards of education or committees of education. This is the first level. The second level is the level of laws. Unfortunately, the laws that we are working, based on these laws, do not allow laws that are still very traditional laws. It is true that the interventions were valuable, the initiatives were valuable, the initiatives that we've heard from Bangladesh, and we shall benefit from those initiatives in Algeria. But the barriers are the laws. The laws are obsolete and very traditional. And regarding Dr. Saeed, when it comes to the students, the training of students, the education of students, and then the students, they would train their colleagues. Where does that happen? Where does that training happen? Does it happen inside of the schools? Are there laws that would allow that? Are there flexible laws? Do we have this openness? Or is this training taking place in the headquarters? So that would be a difficulty here. So if only we would have some open laws and some change in laws in order to allow for these bridges smoothly between the society organizations and the schools. And the last point, when it comes to the research, Dr. Saeed, are the teachers involved in this research? In the UNESCO, in fact, we are working on having teachers as researchers. So teachers should become part of these research that are based on research and evidence. And when it comes to Professor Hassan, also you have talked about the importance of the international community. How can we participate in the initiatives and the projects and programs at the international level? We have a lot of these initiatives such as the World Students Forum, whereby students would get involved in order to discuss a lot of issues related to education. Also, we have the Campus UNESCO, which is a program, and also we have the Réaction Climat program for the climate change. Thank you so much for these valuable interventions. We have benefited a lot from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Basir. There are a lot of questions actually, and very insightful questions. Thank you for this. So first, maybe either Saeed Bhai or Nasreen, who wants to go first to answer?
Right, I can go if Said allows.
Okay.
So yes, there are a lot of valuable question and insight what you said, and I can combinedly answer this thing. That the first thing is about the curriculum and the policy level and laws. So you are absolutely right, Mr. Mohammadi, that yes, it is really hard for CSOs to work with the policymakers and to motivate them that how we want to work. Like for example, as we have started our work for STEM-based education.
I think we lost the sound. Mr. Saeed, could you come in?
Sure. Thank you. I think for the first question about the CSO representation, historically, we do see that the CSOs are rather marginalized and kept away from any education related work. As I said at the beginning, although the whole education system, the school system was actually the contribution of the community, but now they do keep it away. Occasionally, there are some committees where now CSOs are often members. For instance, the KIX steering committee. I am there as a CSO representative there, so we do have that occasionally in some cases. But after the regime change, it is a government of the CSOs, to be honest. Many of the, including unions, many were part of the different NGOs. Still, when there is a curriculum committee, there was a protest, so there is no curriculum committee. The committee was actually banned, and now we have a lot of reform commission, but education commission hasn't been established yet because education is the most controversial area here. Because every political party want to use education to have their spread, so that's why we have all the other commissions, but not the education commission yet. So that's why we still don't know. But the rules and regulations, so sometimes they actually rather send out, they make the rules to keep CSOs away. I was just looking at one of the rules that was, last 2021. So it was the ministry sent to all the schools explicitly saying that during and post-COVID time, if the school work with the NGOs, the teacher or the officials will be personally responsible because they just put a ban. So imagine the way it was. However, sometimes it does work. So if we coordinate, for instance, we are part of a network called CSO Alliance. So CSO Alliance, all the large INGOs and NGOs are members. So as a result, we were actually over the last 1 year able to make few laws. We change few laws. In the last month, there was a meeting where in the Prime Minister's office, currently the Chief Advisor's office, they shared with us that okay, so some of the suggestions that we have given, they will are going to do it. We hope in 1 month or two, the official proclamation will come. So sometimes it works. About the training, so the young people, it's a volunteer, so we cannot work within the school in most cases, but there are few districts where we probably have a local community partner or a local community partner who are very influential that sometimes they are the ones who establish the schools. So in those areas, we can get into the school. So particularly in the two larger districts that we work, is the local partner who have a very good footing. They have access to the schools, so we work there. In other areas, the young people, they actually organize this training outside of the school, and we do our assessment and intervention at the household level. So we assess them at the household level. And now we are also even initiating out of school intervention by the young people to the students. That will also needs to be in a community house, not inside the school. It's not possible for us still. And finally, about the teacher involvement, in one of the scorecard that we do, where 6 monthly basis we see whether that in a particular community the education system has developed or not. In that particular initiative, teachers are involved, the local school teachers and school management committee, they are involved. But our Sumer Hassan is here. I would say one thing though, in many countries you will see that at the university are the main research hub. Is in the West you will see is the universities who are the researchers, the teachers are the researchers. In the South Asia, particularly in Bangladesh, it's very strange. We have the teachers and we have the researchers. We have the the research organizations, and then you have the teacher. And most of cases, the research organizations are not actually aligned or connected with the schools. I think Sumera's institute is a few lovely exceptions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Said Bhai. And yes, and also I think that this barrier of some universities teachers would just do the research and others would do use the research is also like breaking for many of the countries. Already you also talked about this. So I hope that like the teachers, other organizations, and like IER, universities, all will contribute to research, and also all will contribute to the practice, and there will be a synchronized connection between this policy, practice, and research. So we hope for that day. And I think maybe we can go to the next presentation, and then maybe again we can come back for the questions.
Professor Ahsan, there's a question from Dr. Sajid Ali. I'm personally burning to know these questions. If you allow just a final question from Dr.
Sure. Please, Sajid, go ahead.
Hello, thank you. Assalamu alaikum, and very well to see everyone. One question to the group panel, and the question is, civil society in its original sense has to be conscience of the society, that it has to represent society. It has to take its agenda from the society, from the civil grassroots level. What we seem to notice in developing countries, and I think Pakistan, Bangladesh, and some of the other countries it might be a similar situation, is that the agenda is of the civil society is not generally being driven by the grassroots society, rather by the funding preferences of international organizations, which because the civil society also needs to function and depends on funding. Do you agree to that? And if not, what would you say in defense? Thank you.
Thank you, Sajid. Wonderful question. So, like, Nasreen, you wanted to answer?
Yes, I can. Sorry for the disconnectivity. And just before going to that, just one thing I want to share about the research with the teachers. What you said, what I understood that how can we engage at the school level or secondary school level teachers with that? So interestingly, that in our last research with the Brookings institutions, that was the 6 global lessons. So there, if you go, you can see direct quotation from the primary school head and the other teachers, and they were directly involved as data collector, translator, and some students were also engaged. And they just said that we want to get engaged more with the research. So in that way, we are trying to engage those teachers, students, and community with the research. And I think though it is very limited yet, I think in future with the universities, with the organizations, NGOs like KIX, we can include more teachers and students from the primary and secondary level. And what Sajid, you said that absolutely, that is the donor's wish, or depending on the donor's funding capacity, like that. So when we started our research with the STEM education in 2015 with the US State Department, after that we could know that it may not continue, though they did in several times, and though we tried to find out different organizations, and we just develop our capacity. So for from ECS side, we introduced a program named Jonaki, Journey of Noble and Kind Initiative. So there we are supporting the rural level students, maximum of them are girls, with their education, nutrition, and skill development program. And we are not looking for any funder. Actually, our funders are our family members, friends, and me as well. So in that way, we are supporting them. So in small level, we are supporting them, that suppose we will start a project, and after a few days when the fund will be over, after 2, 3 years, 5 years, then it will be in vain. Not that. So we are trying to generate our own capacity in this way. I hope in collaboratively the global South countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other countries like Afghanistan, we can collaborate and we can march forward with our initiative without depending on the global North countries funder. Thank you. Over to you,
Thank you
Sumaira.
so much, Nasreen. Thank you. So it's wonderful to see, like it's an example how the CSO NGOs, they can actually build their own capacity like forever. Like it's not like that when they when they receive the fund and only they work and the rest of the time, and they also have to wait and listen to the funders, and whatever they propose, they research on that. It's not like that. So they can also have a mechanism so that it can be a sustainable way of raising fund and ongoing work for the mass people. This is so wonderful. So thank you, Nasreen. And like Said Bhai, do you want to add with this, or we will move forward?
For the time, I was trying to, write it down, but I'll just have a very quick response. One, there are three types of funding. There are, the way you do. One will come with the donor agenda and everything. It is there. We know that. There are funding, they only talk about a broader theme, like, education inclusion, and then let the CSO deal with it, and they even will give you time to go and to the grassroots and get the feedback and develop your project. I would say GP's UL or the similar project like that. And then finally, we also what we have, sometimes we call it a Robin Hood model, that, we say 60% of our funded project should pay for 100% of our salary, which means the 40% time that you have, you can do whatever you want. And we always say, go to our website, pick up any 100 news, and we can prove that at least more than 40 of those news or things were actually not funded programs. So we create our own sometimes, and I think many CSOs also do. So this is the way we can maneuver. I'll respond further in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So before we go to the next presentation, there is a comment, Mr. Enamul, that small is beautiful, but to have greater impact, we need like big, like from finance from that. This is also very real truth. But we also agree that if we care, we will all contribute small, and that will actually impact a little bigger, maybe not that big, but a little bit. But obviously, we can also contribute with the government, so that the government obviously have the more power to make bigger challenges. But research shows that government have specific this kind of specific benefits, or like they have some strengths, but they also have challenges which actually can be compensated by the CSOs. So maybe both of them can work together and actually complement each other. So let's go to our Omnia Zahran, Education Officer at Equitable and Safe Access to Educational Services for Migrants, Refugees project at Misr El Khair Foundation. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to express my happiness, and it's really a privilege to be a participant with you, and to be with Samena Café for the first time. It's a really pleasure. Thank you so much for this chance. So I think I'm going to share my my presentation. Just a moment. Is it on screen now?
Yes, but not in the full mode.
Okay.
Yes, this one.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect, yeah.
Okay, so I think it's better for me to not be on screen mode, because there are some notes that I need to remind. But I think you all can see it, right? Just
Yeah, that's fine. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we are going to talk about our foundation that I belong to, and especially about the efforts for strengthening education system in our country, Egypt, and it's very huge contributions. So let me tell you that our foundation are very keen on education. As for civil society institutions have begun to play a major role in Egypt nowadays and in the recent years, the Arab world and the world as a whole. For Masr Khair Foundation, it's a model for effective institutions that have been able over the past 10 years to provide a wonderful model supporting education system in Egypt and the Arab world and Africa. Whether in deprived or remote areas. Education sector in our foundation, we divided into two main categories, which is the educational accessibility and the vocational education. I'm going to speak about every one of them. Let me tell you that education accessibility have four major or main, branches. Let me tell you about the first one, that early childhood building and development, developing basic education schools and community schools, then the fellowships and the scholarships. Actually, the accessibility of education is considered, of course, a human right. So providing education was one of the principles that Masr Khair, for Masr Khair, and it's a basic pillar of which the existence of an entire department or department in the education sector of the foundation depended on. First of all, let me tell you about the early childhood. Of course, early childhood is the most important age group in the children's life to prepare children for the learning stage. Masr Khair could establish 100 kindergarten or nurseries halls all over Egypt, which is a huge number and a very good contribution. We are able to, through the Republic, assess or hammer that this age of group is very important. So we pushed a lot to build such nurseries, halls, in all over Egypt. We are we believe that it reflects on supporting working mothers and helping students to be more effective in their first years. Then we got the building and developing schools, the primary schools, or the prep and primary in our country is considered we consider it the basic education. So we could build 230 schools in more than 20 governorates, and we provided 12,000 learning opportunities for students in primary education. And that's a huge number, by the way. Then we come to the component of the community schools, which is a very important component in MAK, Masr Khair. It's the largest, it's considered the largest project in our foundation. It's a legal approach that confirms that child's right to education and for children deprived or dropped out of education in the primary stage. We think that they have the right to return to their schools until the age of 18. So it's a contribution to eliminate the source of literacy from its entrance from the first. So in this component, we got more than 1,000 community schools already built in Egypt. That's a huge number for community schools. And 35,000 educational opportunities for children, with especially I can highlight that 62% of them, of which are for girls. We really taking care of the education of girls, of course. And we got the latest component, which is scholarships. We got chances for scholarships for students. We got French scholarship, Italian scholarship, Chinese scholarship. We could provide 3,000 scholarships to Egyptian students. And I can tell you about something that it's not written in here in the presentation. It's about the project that I'm working in, which is Refugees Project. We can help and contribute to enhance the educational services for refugee students in Egypt. As you know, Egypt is one of the most important and the largest countries that includes a number of refugees of different nationalities, especially that after wars around us in the Middle East and so on. So thus, sorry. I was talking about that Egypt has the largest number of refugees nowadays. So children of refugees and asylum seekers have the right to have their education here in Egypt. So our project is providing them with these chances. Let me get to the next point, which is the second component, the vocational education. We believe that vocational education is very important, and it can support jobs and opportunities for youth and so on. So we are working on two sides: the projects for providing trainings and job opportunities for the people who had the opportunity to be trained vocationally. And on the other side, we have the applied technology schools. We are have some deals and cooperations with the Egyptian Chinese College for Applied Technology and the Americana Hotel Applied Technology, Applied School, I'm sorry. And projects like we got a project called KFW for renewable energy projects, City Foundation, a project also for the vocational training and especially in agriculture. We got the Erasmus project also. And now I'm going to turn to the role of supporting NGOs in education. We can say that the foundation supports many non-governmental organizations, which is a basic goal for of its objectives. It has a civil society sector that the goal of which to support and assist association, non-governmental organization, and civil society institutions to build their capacities and empower CPOs in local communities so that they can effectively enable in the civil society. Second, the foundation has institutional relations with non-governmental organizations and contributes to the supporting their development plans, such as private universities, youth, and sports centers, clubs, and so on. At last, on the Arab African levels, we got scholarships for granted or are granted to non-Egyptian students and civil society organizations in our countries, such as Yemen and Africa, such as the Islamic Council of Muslim Affairs in Uganda, which has transferred, which we are transferring the experience of MEK, Nasr Khair, in community education, which we consider it a success story, so we can transfer it to other countries to apply it in their country. Therefore, we are open the Arab and the African environment to provide assistance and transfer experiences that really contribute to these institutions and entities playing their effective and conscious role to help them in the development movement. This is our ending of my little presentation about my foundation, Masal Khair. Thank you so much. And I got to the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful, and it's so visible to us, the work you are doing, and very passionate you are. We can see that. Thank you so much for your great work.
Thank you.
Let me open the floor if you have any question. Please raise your hand, or you can also ask the question in the chat box.
Let me translate from a message in Arabic from Ghada Mustafa. She says that it's an effort that we all appreciate in the field of development for sustainable kind of education.
Okay, if there is no question right now, maybe we can move forward to the last presentation, and afterwards, at the last, maybe we can take questions for all of the presentations. So now, let me invite Lasad Yacobi. Lasad Yacobi is a civil society activist and president of the National Association for the Right to Education for All. So, Lasad.
أهلا وسهلا.
Please.
أهلا وسهلا.
So, Mr. Yacobi is going to speak in Arabic. So please go to the English channel if you're following from the main channel.
أهلا وسهلا.
From the language interpretation.
Welcome. Thank you all. I'm very happy that you've given me the opportunity to talk about the role of the civil society in developing the education systems. I was the president. I was an ex-president of the association and not currently, and I'm head of the National Association of the Right of Education to All, and I'm a coordinator of the Tunisian Alliance for Education. So we've talked about the title of this seminar from another point of view. In other words, we will not share, in fact, here, or in fact, we shall be sharing our experience in developing the Tunisian education system. And maybe in other occasions, we will be talking about the contributions of the coalition. The coalition has many important contributions that others may be benefiting from. And we, just as we benefited from all the experiences that we've heard today, and just as we've benefited from all the presentations of the previous speakers. So we will be tackling the title from another point of view, and we shall be delving into the different problematics that stand as barriers before the civil society, so that the civil society would have an important role to play and an essential role to play in developing the education systems. And the question here is to know what would be the impact of that on the different national education systems. In Tunisia, the civil society has a very important role to play. Before 2011, before the revolution, the civil society was suffering from dictatorship, and it was under the control of the regime totally. In other words, we didn't have a good national society or civil society, except for some very rare organizations. And the rest would be organizations to embellish the picture of the regime, to show that the regime believes in the work of the civil society. But after the revolution, we've had serious opportunities and a large margin for the civil society through a law that was promulgated to organize the activities of the associations. And this has led to the increase in number of associations to around 25,000 associations and civil society organizations working in all the fields. And a large part of these organizations work in education. This law, in fact, has had a larger contribution in giving room for the civil society to work and to contribute. And after the revolution, there was a community preparedness to accept the role of the civil society. And this has really helped strengthening the role of the civil society, especially in education. And also, we have some governmental parties right after the revolution that were not able to ignore the important role of the civil society, but on the contrary, it worked under the pressure of the civil society and under the claims of the civil society to be given legal spaces to work. And these governmental parties and entities have given the opportunity to involve the civil society in many dialogues and in the policy dialogues, especially when it comes to changing the Tunisian education system that used to be based on a unilateral structure that was built by a unilateral regime that did not believe in involving the civil society in the first place. And also, the civil society throughout a period of 10 years has benefited from a lot of legislations that have been promulgated in order to reduce the representation of the civil society inside of the constitutional entities, and in order to give wider opportunity for it to be involved in the discussion cycles and also dialogue institutions. And in fact, it has benefited from funding. After the revolution, we've had a great solidarity with Tunisia, and this solidarity has enabled the civil society to benefit from donors, and also the civil society has had huge resources to build its capacities and to develop its capacities for it to be able to be active in changing policies. And so the civil society has become efficient at the field level as well. And this has led to a lot of achievements throughout this period. The civil society was very active in a lot of education institutions at many levels. The civil society was allowed to have, in fact, the opportunity to work on education, on academic level, human rights, equality, under different forms and under different activities that have led the civil society to have a very, very important and striking role inside of the education system. The civil society was very active in the reform process that had started in 2013, and it had taken part in formulating the new education policies. And also, we've had many important contributions for the civil society, conferences, fora, etc., that have enabled a real community and policy dialogue on education at many levels. And this has led the civil society to hold a lot of partnerships, maybe thousands of partnerships with the different relevant ministries in the field of education. And also this has strengthened the role of the civil society, be it when it comes to the collective awareness raising of Tunisians or a government awareness of the importance of the civil society. So the government has become aware of the important role of the civil society and that the civil society deserves to be respected. And this historical opportunity that was given to the civil society did not manage to achieve a lot of important things, in our opinion. Maybe this would have led the civil society to become strong and sustainable without it being impacted by the change of policies and by the change of the political situation or the social situation, or impacted by the crises, be it political crises, social crises, economic crises. And one of the main failures, if I may say, so one of the areas in which the civil society has failed is that it failed in achieving unity of that civil society at a minimum level. In fact, we've had multiple associations, multiple organizations without any synchronization in their efforts. They each worked in solo and without, and single-handedly, without any collaboration with others. So this is why we did not have a real opportunity to have a real dialogue inside of the civil society for the sake of education and for the sake of kind of a minimum synchronization and unification so that the civil society would become stronger and so that it would become more capable of putting pressure and getting involved and becoming a strength and a power that would be taken into consideration without it being excluded anywhere. And also the civil society has failed in investing in this period in order to institutionalize the social dialogue and in order to promulgate strong laws and clear laws that would give the civil society a role inside of the policy dialogue institutions and inside of the decision-making arenas and other arenas as well. And also, unfortunately, the country after 2020 has witnessed a lot of political conflicts, and the civil society throughout the 10 past years and also the following years, well, some of the civil society organizations have been involved inside of the political conflict, which has impacted the reputation of the civil society before the public opinion. And this is why the work of the civil society has been described as politicized and related to political choices, to political agendas, and this has impacted, in fact, the role of the civil society. After 2020, there have been political changes inside of the country, and they have directly impacted the role of the civil society. And there have been a huge decline of the role of the civil society that was unable to respond to COVID-19, for example, and it was unable to adapt to the political changes. And also, during that period, there was a decline in the funding given to the civil society, as well as the funding opportunities. The funding opportunities have declined maybe throughout the world after COVID-19. And there has been a huge reduction in the support given to the education systems throughout the world. And this has negatively impacted the performance of the civil society. And also currently there is a dialogue ongoing on some of the legislations and some of the laws that the civil society would see as maybe undermining the freedom it had throughout the past 10 years. Now, what are the lessons that are learned through this historical overview of the situation of the civil society in Tunisia and education system in Tunisia? In fact, the education and civil society organizations are a basis and are fundamental in any education system, and this is what we believe in as an education community, since we understand that any education program is a community program. It is not a political program for a governing party. And so consequently, the community program requires a deep community dialogue, and we cannot build a strong education system and an active education system when we have a reduction in funding and when the government is unable to implement good education systems and good education programs. That would need a stronger partner such as the civil society in order to strengthen the efforts of these governments and in order to support the different choices that would go into the direction of an education system that would support the free education systems, the equality of chances in the education system, and that would support students in general. And so the civil society should be able to incarnate the fourth goal of the SDGs. The civil society also should be unified. In fact, this has become a necessity. There should be a unification, a synchronization of efforts of the civil society organizations. The experience has shown that without such a unity, the civil society would remain weak and unable to perform well. This is why I do feel that one of the lessons learned would be that the unity of the civil society organizations is a main priority. It is a necessity. I think I have a problem, a technical problem. The speaker is saying, are you able to follow?
ممتاز.
ففي تقديري أنه
I do believe that all of the lessons learned were very beneficial for the education department in Tunisia, and our coalition since its beginning was founded based on those learned lessons and tried since the inception to be a response, a very strong one, to all those lessons learned, and tried to be a space, a large space for the civil society working on education. And that's why the Education Coalition in Tunisia worked on enlarging its base and on welcoming the biggest number of civil society. And in another opportunity, I will be presenting all those experiences and the results of our initiatives. Our establishment work as well on very defined points. First of all, to welcome the biggest number of civil society institutions and organizations to be all unified under its umbrella. Second, the coalition launched a social dialogue, a very qualitative dialogue, and worked on supporting this dialogue by encompassing and welcoming all the civil societies organization working on education. And it worked as well on making this social dialogue a tradition, and maybe in the future we will have an institutional dialogue, a dialogue that is a part of our institution whenever we want to change our policies. The coalition as well worked on international partnerships as well as regional partnerships. We have worked with many partners from around the world, from the region, and we are working with the GPE as well as the Arab campaign for education and many other international coalitions. And those partnerships are the base of our work, and we are waiting to accomplish as well other partnerships. I do believe that I have covered all the work conducted by our coalition and depicted a little bit the role of civil society in our region. Thank you for following, and sorry if I was a bit late.
Thank you so much, Yacobi. It was really wonderful. You depicted very well the kind of ups and downs, the unique history of civil society, and civil society organizations in Tunisia. How they could play the role in strengthening education in different periods. It was really amazing. And we could know the enabling factors and the distracting factors. And it's really nice to hear from you that it's really important that the CSOs are united. Thank you very much. So we will take questions. So please raise your hand if you have any question or write in the chat box. We already have questions in the chat box, so maybe we can start with one that Dr. Rokeya asked. Dr. Rokeya Akhtar, she asked. She focused on Omnia's presentations. She is really keen to know about the education system for the children from the asylum seeker families. Do you develop different curriculum and textbooks on their native language and culture? How far they can take the education, and how do they merge with the certificate level to get jobs? It is interesting to know the social impact also. Thank you. So it's for actually Omnia.
Okay, let me revise the question because there are many questions, the same one. So she was asking about the asylum seeker. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the question. Yeah.
This is from US Rokeya Akhtar.
Yes.
From Bangladesh.
About education system for children, for asylum seekers family. It's not for the family. It's for the refugees' children, not the whole family. The whole family. There is a psycho system for them in the NGOs. Actually, we are trying to help the families to as psychotherapy groups and help them because afterwards they got the shock of wars and so on. So the families, we are trying to help them and know and to provide a safe environment for them. Of course, this is for the children in the first priority. So about the language question, actually, most of the refugees in Egypt are Sudanese, and South Sudan and the north of Sudan are talking different languages. South Sudan are talking in English, and north of Sudan are talking in Arabic. So we are trying to help this issue because the South Sudanese schools are in English all, so we are trying to provide English courses for them, and the Northern Sudanese schools are in Arabic, and that's easy one. We can provide capacity building trainings for them as teachers to help enhancing the capacity of the teachers. Another question is, do you develop different curriculums? Yes, that's what I mentioned for the language and culture difference. How far they can take the education and how do they merge with the certificate level? Actually, it's a thing that the project is working on until now, because actually the project is initiating just from 4 months, and it's just the age of the education in Egypt beginning. So it's a thing that we are working on until now. And of course, if there are any answers for such question, I'm going to tell, or we can be in touch if any updates happen. I can tell you, Mrs. or Miss Rukaya. Are the questions answered, or Is there anything I dropped out?
I think you answered perfectly. We understood. Thank you so much, Ms. Omnia. And also, there is another question for you from Marwa. And she asked, I would like to inquire about the opportunities available for students with disabilities within these inclusive education initiatives, particularly in community schools that support those who are not enrolled in mainstream educational settings, as well as in scholarship programs.
Actually, in our foundation, there is a whole department for disabilities. So schools, those schools who have such students, we rolled in them into the programs that taking care of them in this department. And I think I'm not working directly with them, so I think and I'm sure that we are dealing with such thing, and we are trying to put them all the time into consideration, especially in cases like the construction of the schools. You know, the ramp of the disabilities students, we are taking it into consideration. Some little categories that can deal with their cases and so on. So disability, the students with disabilities, we are taking care of and putting them into consideration, of course, and their education is a very important priority in our foundation.
Thank you so much. So is there any other question from anyone from the audience? Please raise your hand or write in the chat box. I don't see any raised hand. No questions in the chat box.
No, there are a couple of hands. There's Dr.
Why
Hosni
can't I
and
see
Dr.
those?
Actually, excuse me, I'm actually raising my hands. My hands is raising already.
Oh, okay. So that's Hanan Morse?
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. And thanks for giving me this chance to ask my question. And it goes to Mr. Yacoubi. And let me ask in Arabic. مساء الخير عليك مستر يعقوبي شكرا على عرضك الشيق.
Hello, Dr. Yacoubi. Thank you for the very important presentation. I would like to know if there are any efforts maybe you didn't mention in your effort, but related to the participation of the civil society in partnership with universities. Or do you have any initiatives conducted or launched between you and the universities? As I've mentioned, I didn't have the opportunity to mention all the activities that we are conducting at the level of the coalition. We are conducting a lot of activities with the universities and the higher education sector around the education policies in Tunisian universities. And in our coalition during last year, we were able to organize a dialogue forum where all the stakeholders participated, as well as the youth, the students, and the competent ministries. And we gave the opportunity for the real stakeholders to provide their opinions, knowing that most of them were marginalized for decades and unable to participate in the reforms efforts, knowing that those stakeholders mainly the students are at a very good level of education, of readiness, and are able to participate in that dialogue. So that's why we have created this environment so we can have an idea related to the future that they want. At the coalition as well, we had a great opportunity where we have worked with a network of youth clubs and students clubs. The students themselves worked on frameworks, legal frameworks, and worked on different domains and levels. We created this network between the clubs and had a foundation opening the way, preparing the way for youth from universities to discuss the different issues related to education. And we at the coalition as well have created a new initiative, which is a radio station, Al-Tarbawiya, i.e. the education. This radio station tackles all the educational issues, and we have a lot of programs that the students do organize and broadcast. We cover a lot of educational issues, and one of those programs is entitled The Student's Microphone, where all students participate and tackle not only their problems related to the curriculum, to the education system, etc., but as well social problems that they face inside the campuses and the different issues related to creativity, arts, etc. So we try to forge a dialogue with the youth because, as I have mentioned, we work based on the fact that any educational system not taking into consideration all stakeholders, not inviting them to the dialogue, means that we are building a future by those whom are not entitled to build that future.
And there's also Dr. Bashir. Dr. Bashir, please.
دكتور بشير الكلمة لك تفضل.
Or I think Dr. Bashir, he forgot to lower the hand because, or I don't know.
That's
Dr. Bashir?
That's a new question, yeah.
خلاص.
Oh, okay.
لا عندي سؤال. شكرا جزيلا.
No, I have a question actually.
Okay, please go ahead.
Thank
you.
I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to have to speak. In fact, there are statistics about the establishment of associations and organizations. You've talked about the associations, nurseries, etc. I'd like to ask about the framing of these nurseries. So, would this come from the government? Are they, do they become official from the government, or are there any other parties? So how are the curricula decided? How is the framing decided? The school books, who decides for that? Is it the ministry or any other party? Another point also, Dr. Omnia, when it comes to the different projects that are addressed to children, early childhood, TVET, what about the adults? Are there any future projects that would take care of the adults in the future? Because it's very important to strengthen lifetime education. One last thing, when it comes to the refugees, are you dealing with these refugees independently, or are they included in specific schools or specific groups? And How do you deal with the curricula regarding these refugees? When it comes to Dr. Yacoubi, thank you so much for this presentation. Dr. Yacoubi, you've talked about the Arab Institute for Human Rights.
رأي الدكتورة التي سبقتني في الأسئلة بالنسبة للتعامل مع الجامعات. هل هناك تعامل الائتلاف التربوي التونسي مع
So
منظمة
would the
الأليكس
Tunisian
منظمة الأليكس
coalition
مقرها في
collaborate
تونس؟
with the Alexa organization that is based in Tunisia? Is there any collaboration here?
التربوي الأول الدورة الأولى لمنتدى الإليكسو للفكر
We've had
التربوي الذي
the
كان في 17 نوفمبر
first edition of the
2020
forum
في
on the 17th of
تونس،
December
إلى حوارات ممتعة مع
in
الأطراف
Tunisia, and
المرتبطة
we've had very
حول
important
التعليم،
dialogues with the
حول
different
دور الذكاء
students in the
الاصطناعي في التعليم،
universities, role of artificial intelligence in
دراسة الربيع
education.
بالعلوم التجارية بجامعة
And
قرطاج.
also,
هل هناك
we've
تعاون
had the different
للائتلاف
seminars in the
التونسي
University of
التربوي
Carthage. So, is there
مع
any
منظمة
collaboration between the
الأليكس، وهي
Tunisian
المنظمة
coalition
التي مقرها في
and
تونس ولها
the
أنشطة
Alexa organizations
عديدة
based in
بالنسبة
Tunisia and
للتربية
having
بالنسبة
pioneered activities
للتعليم
when it comes to
والممارسة
education?
الإصلاحي للتعليم الذي
And
سيكون
this
في
reform
تونس
process of
هو جميل.
education that
هذا
would be in Tunisia is
العدد
very nice.
الكبير
In fact, we
من
have a huge
الصفوف
number of
المرتبة
coalitions,
سيؤدي
and I
الإصلاح
think
في
that this reform is
جودة
going
التعليم
to
وإلى
lead
إصلاح
to a
التعليم
high quality
بشكل
education,
جذري.
and it's going to lead to
فقط
the
هذا
reform of
بالنسبة
education with the
للدكتورة
participation
أمينة
of all.
والدكتورة
So these are my questions to
عفوا يعقوب.
Dr.
بالنسبة
Omnia and Dr.
للدكتورة رشا
Yaqub.
المحترمة عندي
When it
رجاء.
comes to Dr. Rasha,
كنت بعثتك على البريد الإلكتروني
I had sent you
للمشاركة في
by
ندوة
email
من ندوات
an
مكتب
invitation
المعرفة
to take part
لحظ تعرض
in
تقديمي
the
والبحث عن
seminars
رسالة
of the
حول
Knowledge Café, and I've
التعليم من
prepared
أجل
a
تغير
presentation
المناخ
on education
تجارب
for
وأرض
climate
الوعي
change,
بالجزائر. وكان
experiences and
المفروض
aspirations
تكون
from
هناك
Algeria.
جلسة لشمال
And we
إفريقيا
were supposed to
يكون
have a
الأخ من
session for
تونس
North
موجود
Africa,
معنا في هذه
and maybe our
الجلسة.
brother from Tunisia would be
برجاء
with us in this
الدكتورة رشا
session. So please,
أن
Dr.
تحضر
Rasha, let us have
الندوة
this
بمشاركتي وأنا
session,
أتشرف
and I'd be pleased and I would have the honor
وأسعد
to
بذلك
take part
كثيرا
in this
وأتشرف بمشاركتك
session.
بتجربة من
I'd be honored
الجزائر
to
حول التعليم من أجل
share with you
تغير
an experience
المناخ.
from Algeria on
تجارب
education for climate change
وتطلعات
and the different
في
experiences,
المستقبل.
aspirations
وبعثت
for the
بريدا
future.
إلكترونيا للدكتورة
And I've
رشا
sent you an
يعني
email
أرجو
on
الاطلاع
that,
عليه
Dr. Rasha.
وسأبحث
Please
عن
do take
تقديمه
knowledge of that, and I'll be
والبحث هو
preparing my
جاهز الآن.
presentation,
إذن شكرا
and my
جزيلا
research
مرة أخرى
is
للدكتورة وأعطي
ready
فرصة
already.
للتدخل مرة ثانية.
So thank you
شكرا
so much for having given me the
للبروفيسورة
opportunity to speak it
أحسن
twice,
على
and
هذا
thank you,
التصوير
Professor,
الجيد
for
والقيم
this great
والتدخلات
moderation. Thank you
والتعليقات
for
التي
these
كانت
great interventions,
ترافق
and thank you
المداخلات
for all
في
the
محلها. شكرا
comments
لكل
that have
المتدخلين
been
على هذه
formulated.
الأمسية
I'd like to thank all the
الطيبة التي
speakers
استفدنا
for
منها
this
كثيرا.
great
شكرا
knowledge
جزيلا. شكرا.
cafe. Thank you.
دكتور بشير أنا
نعم.
تسلمت البريد
Dr.
الإلكتروني
Bashir, I've received your email,
ومعجبة جدا بالموضوع وكنت هرد عليك
and I
لأن احنا
really like the
محتاجين
topic, and I
ننسق مع
wanted
أكتر
to
من
respond because
متحدث
we
عشان
need to
المقطع العام اللي
coordinate
جاي
with
بعد
many
البرنامج.
speakers for the future
دكتور
knowledge
بشرى
cafe.
وكل
So we'll
الحاضرين
be
إنهم هيكون معانا دكتور بشير حمودي
telling you that
محمودي المرة
Mr.
القادمة
Bashir
من مكتب
Hamoudi will be
المعرفة
with us
عشان نستمتع
next time in the Knowledge Cafe in order to listen to his presentation on education for climate change. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. So who is going to go first to answer his questions? Either Yacobi or Omni?
It's okay.
لا مشكلة يعني.
Okay. I
هو
think I'm
أمنية
okay. I think I'm going to go first.
Okay, great.
Okay. I'm going to speak in Arabic. دكتور بشير سعيدة جدا بأسئلة
Dr.
حضرتك.
Bashir, I'm very happy to listen to your questions. I just wanted to review these questions just to make sure that I've understood well and that I haven't forgotten any question. So let me say that you've asked a question about the refugees. So are they involved together with the ordinary students, or would they have schools for themselves? Well, we have two directions, in fact. Well, we have public Egyptian schools with a number of refugees within schools, be it private or public schools, but we do work with the governmental schools in places where refugees are concentrated, and so in schools where we have refugees. In some of the schools where we have Egyptians, we have refugees as well. So we try to integrate the refugees with the Egyptians. We try to support these refugees. There should be kind of a reconstruction or rehabilitation of the infrastructure of schools if there are any facilities that are needed by the school. We do cover for those, and that would be based on specific conditions conditions by the donors. And there is a number of conditions, in fact, that do govern the different interventions that we have within the project. And so we have a kind of an integration. We serve the schools that include refugees in order to improve the education level, and also we give teachers trainings in order to enhance their capacities and skills. So, for example, we have the staff of the school who would get trained, also the basic material and basic courses teachers, they have specific trainings for them, and also the teachers or employees that are entrusted with the enrollment of students within the school. Also, these would be trained by us. They are trained on capacity building. Now, one other thing as well, there's an activity that we conduct with them. So activities that would unify all the students and that would create a rapprochement of cultures and backgrounds of the students, whether we're talking about Egyptians or non-Egyptians, Syrians, Sudanese, or many other nationalities. So this is part of our efforts as well. Now, regarding some other schools that we are working on, well, these are the schools or the community schools for refugees. And these schools are just made of refugees and newcomers from other states. And these schools would have, in fact, the courses for the English-speaking students and the courses for the Arab-speaking students. And also some students are supposed to attend the same courses.
في الفصول اللي ممكن يكون فيها متحدثين لغة أخرى أو اللغة الإنجليزية ده بالنسبة لفكرة
الدمج. So this is regarding the integration. So we have the two directional approaches, either people who are in government schools or in community-based schools. Now, whether we have any programs for adults, well, until now,
معني بهيئة تعليم الكبار الموجودة
the
في مصر.
education of adults
كده مشروعات خاصة بمحو الأمية أو التدخل مع
well, it falls within the scope of different projects such as the improvement of education of adults. Now, there are projects that end at a certain period of time and that have not been renewed, that have been suspended maybe for a reason or another. And there are many other projects that are also newly introduced. I'm not any decision maker, of course, but I think that this is something that we shall be taken into consideration. Now, regarding the community-based schools, regarding the funding, or let me understand better the question. Could you please repeat that question in a nutshell? Is the question related to the schools? Just let me intervene. Well, we have gone beyond the time. It's been 30 minutes now. I know that the topic is very rich, but please let us stop for now. let us stop questions for now because we were supposed to have this seminar for 1 hour and a half, and now we're going beyond the 2 hours. So just please write a blog post that would be published on the KIX page, and that would be talking about or that would answer all of these questions. I'll switch to English now.
So I would like to thank all the speakers for their valuable contribution today, and I would like to invite you to write an article, a blog post that is to be published on the KIX EMAP website that would address not only the presentations, but also the question that was posed by the floor, by the other participants, because I mean, those are like the questions that we all have in mind. And then all participants and other people can start communicating on the blog post and responding, and then we can keep an ongoing communication around this important topic. So once again, thank you, everyone. I would hand over to my colleague, Yasmina Osama, for a final comment and a request. Please, Yasmina. And thank you for the wonderful moderator, Dr. Sumaira Ahsan, and that she was able to overcome the glitches of the internet and yet moderate and be existing with very relevant
Thank you.
on the presentations. And as usual, she's very professional and she's very to the point. Thank you so much, Dr. Sumaira Ahsan, as well. And Yasmina, over to you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, Rasha, and thank to all speakers and the wonderful moderator, Dr. Sumaira Ahsan. I just want to ask you to take a few moments to fill out the post-session survey. You can scan the code to know about your experience, and so we can develop or improve the upcoming sessions. This is the only thing before we close the session.